All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining today. I'm RJ Tallier. I'm the founder of Backstroke. And if you would have asked me what I was going to do in high school, I think I might have told you that I was going to be a English teacher. I went on to get an English degree. I have a master's in English, but I've been working in the technology space for about 21 years, which is been an awesome career. And today we're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and how it intersects with beauty and what we love and care about. Everybody on the phone, thanks for on the call. Thanks for taking that quick survey. It looks like a little bit more than half of us are optimistic about artificial intelligence. Another 16% or even more than that, they're enthusiastic. So we've got a crew of folks on the call. That's about 3/4 are pretty positive about artificial intelligence, which is great. My company Backstroke, you can learn more about us at backstroke.com, is an artificial intelligence platform that generates marketing messaging. But it doesn't come without its own complications, risks, and even human replacement, which is why I side some with the folks who are nervous or even scared about AI. I think there's a lot to learn, and hopefully this session will help kind of open your eyes to some of the things that are ahead of us. So the first thing I like to start with is by introducing you to Sage. This is a standard poodle, and Sage won the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show in 2024. This is the most beautiful dog in the world, according to those that dictate what the most beautiful dog is. On the other side of things, this is considered the world's ugliest dog in 2024, Wild Thing. And I'm not sure where your head lies. Is it this beautiful poodle or this ugly? I'm not sure what kind of dog this is, but really what we're talking about is beauty. And this author named Margaret Wolfe Hungerford, who's an Irish author, published a book in 1878 called Molly Bawn. And she is credited with the phrase, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. She's the first person to have ever said that. And, we as humans all have different ideas of what beauty is, what's beautiful, what we like and what we don't like. And there's no wrong answer. It's just a matter of like, what do you love? And, that can be all sorts of different things. We look at beautiful things in nature, in art, in writing. Humans are beautiful. All these different dimensions are out there from a beauty perspective. And we as a human might look at a piece of art and say, oh man, that is beautiful because it makes me feel something. It makes me feel awestruck, or it makes me ask some questions, or it reminds me of things. Like, oh, I had a weird dream about sunflowers one time. Or it might say, oh, I remember this trip that we took. Or I might wonder at how an artist might have created that. So we actually feel these things and it elicits all these thoughts, and we call that beauty. In the algorithmic world or with artificial intelligence, a machine looks at the same piece of art and says something very different. They try to categorize, they try to specify, they try to identify, and then they'll actually provide you with recommended options for things that look very similar to this. So an AI response to it might actually be able to categorically say, this seems to be more beautiful, but the human is actually the person or the being that can actually say, this is beautiful. And that's a big distinction because algorithms are using techniques like the Fibonacci sequence, which is the series of number that goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, to dictate whether or not something is or is not beautiful. So a machine could objectively look at these types of images and say, yes, this is beautiful, based on the Fibonacci sequence, or what's known as the golden ratio, which is a relationship between two numbers is 1.68, and say, all right, this is in fact beautiful. But it negates all of that emotional or memory or the feelings that we have as humans. And so we, in a human versus AI world, we're in this weird space where we don't quite know what is beautiful because the machine is trying to categorize it or calculate it, and we are then still having these human experiences. We're using different things. So excuse me, a human and a machine might look both at this visual of Romanesco, which is a type of vegetable, and say, like, this is beautiful because it's using the golden ratio or the Fibonacci sequence. We might look at a photo of Rihanna and apply that same golden ratio and say, yes, she is beautiful. We might look at these celebrities and say, "Oh man, they are the pinnacle of beauty because they all have that golden ratio in their faces." But might look at my face and say, "Wait, am I beautiful? And is an algorithm going to say that I am beautiful?" So I was actually curious about that, and so I downloaded 3 different apps that claim to look at faces and say, "Yes, these are beautiful," or "not beautiful." And no, I don't recommend that you do this for 2 reasons. One, because these types of apps steal your data and they use your faces in training models. And then secondly, I don't think machines should tell us whether we're beautiful or not, but I did it anyway for the purposes of this presentation. So the first app, I uploaded this picture of me just on a regular day, and it gave me the disclaimer about it, and then it told me I was a B plus. So I don't know, I got a B plus, and my golden ratio for my face is 89%. And I was curious about how this algorithm decided that I was a B plus. And so I opened it up, and it has all these different categories that you can look at, like the mouth to face ratio and other things. Looks like the eye ratio is not quite as good according to this algorithm. So I got a B plus, and gave me a list of things to talk to my plastic surgeon about. So we'll see. It also, showed me some of the ways it was calculating that, and it's, using my eye ratio, my lip ratio, etc. So it's kind of decided that those are the reasons why I am a B plus. Okay, the second app, I uploaded the same photo into it. It gave me an error, which I just thought was kind of funny after I uploaded a photo. Never a good sign. But this one gave me a 6.41 for my beauty score. Ooh, like 6 out of 10 in high school. That's a D. I got a D from this one. And I think I'm better than a D. I don't know. I'm not asking for your thoughts or comments or validation here, but it's interesting how 2 different apps can use 2 different algorithms to say 2 much different things about my face. But this one, it went into some specifics, and then it said, "Your celebrity doppelganger is Messi." I thought, okay, good. Well, that's a good one. Or John Cena, which, I don't see it, but if the algorithm says it, it must be right, right? But it's just kind of funny. It also told me that I had drooping eyes, which, again, I'll have to talk to my plastic surgeon about that one and see if we can fix it. But I have small drooping eyes with a narrow space. So interesting, objective feedback here, or very skewed feedback, depending on how you look at it. But this algorithm is trying to figure out, am I beautiful, or does my face look to a certain standard? So I uploaded the third one. Same deal. It gave me a 79, which is, C plus, passing, I guess. It also told me that I look like Matt Damon. Tried to figure out what my facial structure looked like in comparison to its algorithms, but that went a little step further to recommend a color palette that might look good on me. And I'm going to be investing in some spring tones, it looks like. So, these apps are kind of silly, but it is a demonstration of what is it around the criteria that are used by an algorithm to decide whether something is beautiful. And in marketing, that's where I've worked for the last 20 years. We are effectively trying to create a brand and try to create something beautiful that people want to engage with. They want to they want to post it, they want to like it, they want to share it, they want to buy it. And at the core of it, the question is, do you agree with those criteria that are being used to judge whether something is beautiful or not? So underneath it, you have to really understand a lot of things. And especially if you're interested in artificial intelligence, you need to know the lingo. If you're not in artificial intelligence, but you choose a different career path, you still need to know the lingo. It used to be that somebody like me, an English major or a master's in English, I wouldn't have to do anything to understand these algorithms. But as just a general consumer, but as also somebody who's working in my career, this impacts me every single day, because I've got to negotiate with data scientists and people who own this data and are creating the algorithms. I have to figure out what they're doing so that I can understand whether I agree or not. So understanding what an algorithm is really important. If you're a fan of the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix, you might remember Titus Andromedon's trying to figure out what an algorithm is. This is not what it is. Instead, an algorithm, we'll get to it here, it's just a sequence of math equations, effectively. But there's a lot of other factors that you're going to have to think about, and words that you're going to need to know. So let's go through these. The first one is computer vision. Computer vision is the way that a machine looks at this email on the right and identifies what's in it. So you can see that it's identified a logo, an image, a product description, and a button. It's the way that a machine has eyes. And computer vision is really good at all sorts of things. It can help you create content, but it can't help you create, or can't do things like spotting a pack of puppies. So a machine is not good at distinguishing between cookies and cream ice cream and Dalmatian puppies, but you're probably looking at this image and easily able to discern the difference. A computer vision algorithm can't tell the difference between fried chicken and a golden doodle, or between a dog and a bagel, or between a parrot and guacamole. It has a hard time discerning between these types of imagery. But again, we as humans are quickly able to do that. So if a machine can't tell the difference between these two types of kind of close images, then what is the algorithm trained on? So if the algorithm's trained on data that can't actually figure this out, why are we trusting that algorithm to tell us that something is beautiful, or that it is worthwhile, or that it's trustworthy? Someone did a study on applying 4 different trained models to this image, and so they fed this image into a set of computer vision algorithms and said, "What is this image?" And the first one said that this giant art piece was a guillotine. The second one said it was a turnstile. The third one said it was a forklift. And all of these different variants of the forklift. The fourth one actually identified that it was a chair, or a giant art piece that would look like a chair. But if you were trusting an algorithm using computer vision to identify what is in this, it can be wrong, very wrong, in fact. And so if we were say, hey, show me images of forklifts, and it showed me art pieces like this, as well as forklifts, we might not want to trust that algorithm. But computer vision can, detect lots and lots of things. It can understand millions of different variants of types of animals. It can find faces in images, even in the background of images. It can track objects in motion. So by looking at things like GoPros that are strapped to people's heads, we can actually identify products that are moving in tandem. It can look at multiple objects at the same time, looking at people with umbrellas and backpacks, and being able to discern those from people who are riding an elephant or doing other things. So computer vision can be very, very good, but it's not 100% accurate. The second term is NLP, natural language processing, and it's the way that the machine can look at this text in an email and assign it with different things. It can read it, and then it can assign a positive sentiment, a brand tone. It starts to assign what is actually in the text. NLP, natural language processing, is the way that a lot of these LLMs are trained. We use natural language processing for customers here at Backstroke, and I'd love to actually give you a little pop quiz and see if you can tell. So Pearl Izumi is a customer of ours. They sell biking equipment, and we did a campaign for them where we generated all these subject lines for them for their email campaign. And I'm curious if you are willing to tell me which of these subject lines that you believe drives the highest revenue. I'm going to put a quick poll out there right now and see what you think. Which of these subject lines do you think drove the highest revenue? We used natural language processing, natural language generation, and a number of different algorithms to create these. So curious what you think. If you would go ahead and take the poll. Ooh. Okay, we've got some votes out there. Which of these subject lines do you think drove the highest revenue? If you're any future marketers in the world, or if anybody's ever done email marketing, you'll know that this is literally what we do on a daily basis. Do you think the first one or the second one? All right, I'm going to give you 2 more seconds here. Which of these subject lines drove the highest revenue? Okay, I'm going to let me go ahead and show results. Okay, looks like most people picked number 4. 44% of you picked number 4, followed by a tie between 3 and 5, and no one really voted for number 2. Interesting. Okay. Well, for all of those out there, number 3 actually drove the highest revenue, so most of you are wrong, which is interesting, but it is kind of a guessing game. This one drove 142% more revenue per email than the other 4, and you might be wondering why. And it actually comes down to who is receiving the message, because it's a little bit of a trick question. The Gen X folks loved this subject line, whereas Gen Y folks loved the first one. Number 2 was actually most popular with women on their list, which makes up 22% of their audience. The 65 plus audience, those boomers out there, most of you picked number 4. That's the one that drove the highest revenue for the 65 plus older group. And the people who are low frequency buyers love the number 5. So there's actually no right answer here, but instead it's depending on who you're talking to. So as you think about what is going to drive the best revenue, the algorithm needs to be tuned, not just for your message, but also for your audience. And that's what gets a little bit tricky. And so let's go on to the next one. Algorithm is just a finite sequence of instructions. It's a math problem, basically. And again, I'm an English major, so that's my explanation of what an algorithm is. But I found that it really does come down to a set of inputs and outputs. So what is the computation that we're up against? An algorithm is, some people call it algorithm. It's not as tricky as it seems. If you've heard of LLMs or large language models like ChatGPT and GPT and others, really what we're talking about is large language models that need to be fine-tuned. And fine-tuning allows us to take content that is in general and make it things like aspirational or aggressive, or make the same content technical, or make the same content motivational. So these are the types of fine-tuning that you can do by brand, by tone, by goal. So you can take a large language model and fine tune it. And then the last thing, just from a vocab perspective, is Louvain community detection, which is one of many models that take large data sets and identify groups of individuals within that data set. And Louvain community detection is just one type of unsupervised data science model that is used by marketers and others to identify groups of similar individuals. And if you, as a human, would say, hey, tell me about groups of similar individuals, you might say, well, there's baby boomers, there's Gen Y, there's Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. You might do generational stuff, or you might say like men like this, or women like that, or people in the East prefer this, or people in the West. But there's actually some crossing of those groups that might not be as recognizable by a human, because we have our own attitudes and kind of ideas on how things should work. So Louvain community detection can validate that or invalidate that. And it's a type of data science model that finds groups of individuals that are similar. So I don't know if you know the name Sam Altman, but he's the founder of OpenAI. He said that 95% of what marketers are using people for, agencies, strategists, creative professionals, will easily, nearly instantly, and almost no cost be handled by AI. So if you're considering a career in marketing, this is certainly something that must be alarming to you. As somebody who has made their career in marketing, it's certainly alarming to me. But as I think about it, I think, well, there's a lot of risks or concerns I have about AI, like deepfakes or the way that AI misinterprets things. So AI might look at images and try to describe what's going on in that image. And the top 3 are pretty good, but the bottom 3 don't really do a good job. The machine is using computer vision and then a natural language generation model to say, all right, we think that this image is a teddy bear sitting on a table next to a tree in a car. Well, that's not what that's in that image. And you as a human could say, oh, this is grass with a foot in it. Or this is my favorite actually here. This image, the machine is trying to say that it's a man holding a cat in his mouth. But I mean, clearly, I think we can see this is like a guy's leg, something like that. So AI can't tell a perfect story or engineer an airplane, certainly not one that I want to be driven in. And then AI can't actually make ethical choices either. And that this is a website called This Person Does Not Exist, and it generates images of people using different markers, so like age or sex or ethnicity. And so none of these people are actually real, but they've been generated by a GAN or an AI model or a set of algorithms that's trying to approximate what a human looks like. But it gets into all sorts of tricky territory when it tries to say, all right, generate a model that is a certain ethnicity, age, body type, all those types of things. And that's where we get into moral or ethical implications of AI that humans have to really be accountable for. So, okay, I got one more pop quiz for you here. I am curious if you can, let's see, let me publish this one. All right, this little pop quiz here is, I'm curious if you can tell which of these emails was generated by artificial intelligence. Which of them? There's 4 emails. Curious which one you think was generated by AI. Think about your own inbox. Think about what you get. What do you think? Which of these was generated by artificial intelligence? See if you are smarter than an algorithm. Okay, it looks kind of evenly split, although number 4 is really coming up. Well, let's get a few more votes here. Take a look at these emails. Which of them do you think was created by artificial intelligence? Wow. Okay, number 4 is, well, number 2. Number 3, I don't know, kind of evenly split still. But nobody thinks number 1 was created by an artificial intelligence, which is interesting. Okay, well, the answer, if you're wondering, is number 2. So number 1, 3, and 4 were all generated by humans. Number 2 was generated by artificial intelligence. So it's interesting, only 28% of you, so about a third of you were able to discern that. But what's interesting is that's about right. So 83% of people get this question wrong. And so you're a little bit smarter than at detecting these algorithmically driven things than average folks. But what we're talking about is actually something called the Turing test. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alan Turing, but he's largely credited with breaking the Nazi code during World War II. He was a British data scientist. And Alan Turing is a global hero at this point, but he also is named, or they named it the Turing test because the question is, can a human discern between artificially created content and human created content? And if so, it, quote, passes the Turing test. And 83% of people can't get that wrong, can't get that right. And it looks like about 2/3 of this audience also got that wrong. So the messages that you just saw pass the Turing test and really are showing us the difficulty of creating content that is discernible as algorithmically created. But what's interesting is that 73% of consumers say they'd be less likely to engage with content if they knew that it was generated by an algorithm. But as we just showed here, most people can't tell. So you can't tell that the content was generated by an algorithm, but people say, oh, I would be less likely to engage with that content. So it's a really tricky place where we've got algorithms and AI creating content for us that's based on an algorithm that we didn't decide on, that's making decisions about what's beautiful and what's not beautiful, effectively saying, what should we show to you or what should we not show to you? It's been trained on this data that you may or may not trust. And so as you go out into the world and decide how to use all these capabilities that are emerging literally on a daily basis, think about your human responsibility, your ethical responsibility, moral responsibility in creating content or apps or the world in the face where beauty is in the eye of algorithm. I'd love to take any questions if there are some. Do we have any questions, Jenna?
Hey, RJ, we have no questions right now, but that doesn't mean there aren't questions. People were very chatty at the beginning of the session, saying good morning and hello to you.
Good.
Bibbly Bobbler has a question, but they just said they had a question. So we are waiting for the question to come through.
Good.
Okay, so someone's asking, what are some of the ethical reasons and things to be thinking about behind all of this?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a really good one. Like, what I always go to, like, if you think about your Instagram feed or images that you see, a lot of marketers want to create content that is representative of their audience. But what we do is we make decisions about like whether like what gender that individual is, or what their body type should be, or what their age should look like, or what race they should be. And all of those things are fluid, as well as not discernible just by looking at an individual. So a lot of times these algorithms have been trained by a bunch of 50-year-old white guys, and they are applying their human experience on images to train these algorithms. So we end up with biased information and problematic outcomes of that, which create all sorts of ethical and moral problems. So if you're asking an algorithm to create an image of a athletic man who has a biracial background, that's going to look like all sorts of interesting things that may or may not represent what you believe or what your brand believes. And that is, I think, an ethical problem, a moral problem, as well as just a concern that we're going to have to figure out how to deal with as humans.
Cool. Some more questions are coming through. There's some great ones in here. Yeah. Nolan is asking, do you think there's a reason for people not wanting to use AI-generated apps?
Well, yeah. I mean, you mean like from an individual perspective, or from a company perspective?
Company, probably both.
Yeah, I mean, from a company perspective, the question is what got buried in there? Like, how do I QA or audit everything that's in that app? And if the AI went askew, there's a word called hallucinate. That's the way that people describe when AI just goes rogue and makes its own decision. If it hallucinates in the wrong way, it might create something that's offensive or inaccurate or just plain wrong, either or off brand, or whatever the case is. So any AI generated anything poses that potential risk. And so marketers or companies are nervous about AI generated anything because of that reason. And on the consumer side, there's a question of how is my data being used? I actually warned when I showed you those photos of my face going into those apps. I mean, like my face might show up on like a fake ID in some foreign country at this point, and your images are at risk of doing the same. So I think all of that creates a problem that we should think about, and probably already are.
Cool. Okay, so this is a fun one. I really like this. So Brogan's asking, if they add AI images to Google, so like what you were just saying, right? Your image can end up on a fake ID somewhere else. Does that mean that AI can be training off of AI, or is it able to tell the difference?
Oh, I don't know. I don't believe that AI can see the difference. That's actually a giant problem. They've tried to figure out how to encode images with like some sort of encoding or watermark or whatever to figure that out. But yeah, it's going to create a system that's training on itself. And the problem with that is that the AI trains on itself. So it's just going to be iterative on its own self. And so it sort of eats itself. And that's actually where humans come in, because we come up with net new things. We create, and and AI can also create, but they're creating based on a set of instructions or assumptions, whereas we are creating based on what's in our dreams or memories or experiences or whatever. So yes, the machine will generate content that's generated on itself. And actually, there's a name for that, which is synthetic data. So you might hear about synthetic data being used to train algorithms, which poses a new set of risks.
Cool. So Bibbly Bobbler asks, will AI take over the world? And so for people listening, there's a thing called PDOOM, which is a scale from 0 to 1 or 0 to 100%. RJ, what's your PDOOM number? How likely do you think AI is going to take over the world, with 0 being not a chance and 1 being full absolutely happening?
I think
It's okay.
49.
You can refrain from answering if you would like.
No, I think 49. I think that humans, like, I think we're good. I think people are good, but I think that we're going to get to an edge and stop. But I do think we're good, and I think that ultimately we're going to put in restraints or constraints, those types of things, in order to keep AI as a tool that is in the best interest of humans versus letting it destroy the world. The same kind of question was asked about nuclear annihilation, all from like 1950 on. And, I think humans are good in general and understand the potential huge risks there.
Cool. We've got a lot of great questions. Tegan is asking, is there a better way to detect if an AI sends you an email or a phone call? Is there something that we can be doing?
There's not right now. I think it'll also be really tricky because it's going to be a hybrid. A lot of times there's going to be AI generated and human, or there's AI plus human stuff. So then it's a question of how AI-ified content will you allow, that type of stuff. So no, I don't know of a way.
Okay. Sorry, these are some really great questions.
I know, this is good.
What is your personal opinion on the AI art issue that artists have with?
Ooh. Okay, so I actually had a company prior to Backstroke that was called Pattern 89. And if you go to pattern89.com, it now redirects to Shutterstock because we were purchased by Shutterstock. Shutterstock is an online marketplace for selling artists' photos. And I think that, this is a complicated question. I think that copywritten content should not be used to train models. And I think that artists are going to basically be, stripped of their royalties and livelihood if the machine uses it. However, it's amazing because I actually went to grad school with people who used all of these AI systems to generate new art. And so it's funny because on one hand, you don't want the original works being ripped off and, robbing the individual of their income. But on the flip side, they're using AI to generate net new things. So I don't know, those are kind of two different opinions because I'm sort of in wonder and awe of the second part, but I am really against the first.
Yep. And so fully related, since AI needs large amounts of data, both in art and otherwise, how can it be sourced without running into copyright issues?
I have no idea. I really don't. And actually, what's amazing about that is if we have any entrepreneurs who are on the call, that is a problem that you should solve. And, I love being an entrepreneur. It's been super fun. But like, if you can figure that out, you'll make quite a bit of money as well as help the world. So I know that there's some initiatives already in place, but I don't know how to do that.
All right. This is more of a philosophical, historical question. But this person wants to know how AI was created. Like, who woke up one day and thought, I'm going to make a computer that can create images?
Oh, I've seen a presentation on this and it's crazy because it's super old. It's like from the 30s or the 40s. I don't quote me on this.
1951 is when it was defined.
There you go, Jenna. Well, ask Jenna the question, but like, it's not like it happened 2 years ago. Yeah. It's been in the works for a long time. And, and I think that we're just, there's that phrase, like, if you can dream it, you can do it. And that humans are not capable of imagining something that couldn't exist. And like, that's kind of a cool thought. So somebody thought, hey, I'm going to be able to generate an image, and then they went and built it. And the same for you, like if you're on this call thinking, oh, I wish, whatever, if you can dream it, then you can actually build it, even if it seems ridiculous. So I think we're just going to see more and more applications of all this AI, but Jenna knows the date.
Yeah, no, it was the first AI program was built in 1954, and it was they took a math theorems notebook and they put the theorems into a computer program, and then they asked the questions about math. So it was one singular book. So we've come a long way from that.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was like before personal computers existed. So like you said, like we dream up things that we hope can exist in the future before we even have the technology to make it happen.
Yeah.
So Trevor asks a good question, again, kind of like a theoretical These are some really great like theory questions. Do you think we as humans are actually slowing the progress of AI learning, specifically by what we can't identify what AI is able to see? So like,
Probably, yeah. I mean, but
I think it kind of goes to like what we were just saying, right? Like we can
yeah,
only think what we can think about. Like we don't know what we don't know, so we don't know what to train
yeah,
the AI on.
yeah. And yes, I think so. I think the problems don't exist yet that we can't anticipate the problems in some of the cases yet. So yes, we probably are. And then there's also the risk of just like letting it go at 100% in whatever direction and seeing what happens.
Yep. Isla asks, so we kind of touched on this, but I think she's like clarifying. Is it true that AI uses other artists' work for AI work, for AI
Yeah.
art?
Yes, it does. It does. Absolutely. And it depends on the algorithm that you're using. Yes, it's ingested all sorts of stuff, including other artists' work, whether that's, visual or, written or, paintings or whatever. Like, I mean, if you're on the internet and you're putting content out there, you're probably putting your content out there to be training an algorithm. And, everybody says you should read the T's and C's. And if you do, you're probably, your content, whatever it is, art or otherwise, is being used to train something.
Cool. We are at time, so people can take a 10-minute break if they want. Someone asks, AI has limits, but why do people fear AI even knowing these limits? Like, what's the fear? What's driving the fear behind it?
Well, I mean, existentially, they think that AI will train itself to destroy humankind. Like that's what, the ultimate doom is. You can watch a lot of movies that imagine that. I think that in maybe more close to home in my world, in marketing land, they're nervous that if I'm 46, if I'm 46 and I've become an expert in a certain field of work, and suddenly a machine can do that work in a fraction of the time and do it better, then what am I supposed to do? And some people say, well, you should learn a new skill. But I think, well, I've already mastered this one. I've spent my whole career doing it. And that's a question that's being asked by a lot of people, like doctors and lawyers and artists and marketers and everybody. So if everybody's job can just ultimately be done by AI, then should we all just be data scientists, or how do we evolve this, And so everybody's asking kind of a humankind question, but then also like, what is my job? Like literally, what is my job? How do I make money? How do I put food on the table if the machine can do it? So there's, and like, again, when I was in high school, I would think, oh, this is the list of jobs that I can select from. And that list of jobs is, obsolete in some ways, and it's going to be obsolete again. And if you're trying to figure out what you want to major in, I don't even know what to recommend to you, because who knows what you should major in college, or what trade school you should pursue, or what job you should target, because the AI is moving so quickly that it's not as clear of a path as it used to be. And that's, humans fear uncertainty in general. We seek comfort as a species. Our brains are hardwired to seek comfort, and there's no comfort here. It's only change. So we are getting kind of deep in existential land here, Jenna, but that's a good conversation. And
yeah. And we have a teacher thanking you so much for your session. And
good, thanks.
She loves these questions from the students and your responses.
Yeah,
so
great.
Thank you so much, RJ, for joining us today. Thank you for this amazing content. I got a lot of great ideas for us in our AI sessions. I'm really excited.
Cool.
But have a wonderful day. Stick around if you want and join us in the other sessions. Thank you, students, for your amazing questions. They were really great. And we'll see you over in session 2.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.